So welcome to part 2 of making a 3D textured art using metal mesh. If you have not watched part 1, then please go back and watch that one first. So this is the next day. The canvas is now fully dried and we can now begin to sand down the edges. So I am using a 40 sandpaper just to smooth out any edges that may have had a lot of filler or any spaces that are really bumpy, and this is just to really sand it down using a really coarse grit paper. One thing I did not anticipate with this part is actually how long it actually took me. So you're going to need probably maybe a good hour or so for this part, because the sanding down, it can get quite addictive. I also realized that I should have added another layer of filler because there are some areas which are thinner, and when I was sanding down I did actually accidentally sand down to the metal mesh, so I would have to refill it back up with a poly filler and give it a sand over again. So after using the 40 grit sandpaper, I changed over to using a 100, which is a more finer sandpaper, and this one really smoothed out a lot of the edges. At this point I said to myself, why did I choose such a big canvas to work on? It took me ages to do. So use the 40 for really bumpy rough edges just to smooth over, and then use the 100 sandpaper to kind of go over it and give it a more softer finish. So once you've fully sanded your canvas, it's now time to apply gesso. This is the one that I am using. It's just from my local craft store. I haven't used it in quite some time, so it was pretty thick. I just added some water and really just tried to make the texture smooth again. After that, you can start to apply your gesso. It shouldn't be thick. It should be like a nice kind of like acrylic paint texture, I guess. I did apply 2 layers of gesso this time because the gesso is slightly thicker. I did use it to build up in some areas where there were small dents or any bumps that I was trying to smooth over before I paint on top of it. If you find that your gesso is too thick, you can just add water again to thin it out. It is water based, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. You can spray on top of it afterwards to kind of remove any streak marks that you don't want. Once that is done, you'd want to leave it to dry for about 24 hours before you can finally start to paint. I decided to paint it white. Ideally I wanted to paint it black first, but I thought, let me try it out in white. If I don't like it, then I can always go back over it in black. It is the final and last day and the last step of this piece. It has taken me over a week to do this piece, and honestly it has taught me so much patience. So the last step, again, I always say it's optional, but a lot of people like to do it, so I thought, let me give it a go. I decided to use this varnish that I bought from Amazon. It gives a satin finish and it is really runny, so you only need a little bit at a time. I'm only going to varnish half of this canvas so you can see at the end a comparison of what it looks like when it's varnished versus when it's not varnished at all. And this is what it finally looks like when it's dried. Honestly, I don't think I like the satin finish at all. I'm probably going to go over it again in paint because I kind of like the more matte finish. There is also a matte varnish that you can buy, which I think I will try out next time. But for now, I think I'm just going to go over it again with paint because I really don't like the kind of sticky wet look that it has. It just, I don't know, it just makes me feel a bit icky inside. So I'm going to go over it again. And here you can see it side by side of how I did my fabric art, and you can see the differences in between the two. The 3D mesh makes it look more elevated, it looks a lot more 3D, and then the fabric art, it just looks a bit flat. So again, it all depends on your taste and what you prefer on your walls. I hope you guys have enjoyed this process as much as I have. Honestly, it has been one of the longest pieces I've ever done, ever. Will I be doing it again? Probably yes, but I'd definitely choose a much smaller canvas, and I would really like to try it on different colors. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.